What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie. This is part 9 into my deep dive into Jethro Tull's live albums. This is live at Madison Square Garden, 1978. I'm going to talk about this album, then I will rank this among the other 8 I've already done. Feels like we've come full circle, even though we're not done with this project. There is one more officially released live album, and I'm probably going to go into like the anniversary re-releases. A lot of those had live shows as bonus discs, so we will address those. But the first album I did was Bursting Out, which was material from the Heavy Horses tour, May, June 1978. This is a complete show from later in that year. I believe they're still doing the Heavy Horses tour. October 78, I think October 22nd is the exact date, at Madison Square Garden here in the States, New York City. October 9th is the show, though they did play also on the 8th. Quite a similar set list to the Bursting Out. And so in that regard, it's kind of a repeat of what Bursting Out was, but to give away the list, Bursting Out is still number 1. It's such a phenomenal live album that having more from this tour is kind of okay. Yeah, we'll get to that. Also, is interesting because the reason I started doing this was because there was a Bursting Out re-release back in June. I'm filming this in September. And some of the bonus material was a remixed version of this album. And I don't believe I talked about it in Bursting Out, but we're now back to this. So, great. I think the sound is pretty excellent. They remixed it or remastered it for the Bursting Out release. Love the inclusion of Heavy Horses material. I think Bursting Out and my sort of loving that helped me re-love or find why Heavy Horses is such an underrated, fantastic album. We get 11 tracks on this release, though when they would re-release it, some of these tracks have other songs buried within them. In the re-release version, they would excise out those extra tracks and give them their own identity, give them their own name, give them their own number. Here you don't get that, but that's okay. Opens up with Sweet Dream. Fantastic opener. You have sort of like this fanfare opening where you can hear the band members coming out. And then at one point, Barr kind of teases the Sweet Dream riff a couple times, like plays the beginning but doesn't commit to it. And then when he finally commits to it, the energy is just like, yeah, fantastic opener. I do want to compare this to the Bursting Out because on the Bursting Out, when they made that album on that tour, they would open up with No Lullaby, and then Sweet Dream was the second song, and it really is like a 1-2 punch. Opening up with just Sweet Dream is like, let's go baseball here. It's like opening up with a double. solid leadoff hitter, gets you to second base. Absolutely amazing. But opening up with No Lullaby and then Sweet Dream, it seems like No Lullaby is maybe also a double, possibly a triple as an opening song, but then having Sweet Dream come up after it, that is also a double, and it gets the first runner home. And then because they're trying to get No Lullaby out at home, Sweet Dream makes it to third, so it's kind of a triple. So just by pairing those two songs in the opening of Bursting Out, I think it's a lot more of an effective opening before things kind of chill out a little bit. Here you get Sweet Dream as an awesome opener, and then you go into One Brown Mouse. I like One Brown Mouse. I think it sounds fantastic. Jethro Tull does acoustic live better than a lot of bands. Like their live acoustic stuff sounds fantastic. So anytime they introduce an acoustic instrument, it's not buried in the mix, or it's not weak sounding, or it doesn't have a bad tone. It sounds great. So I like One Brown Mouse following Sweet Dream as it is on Madison Square Garden, but I do think you lose a little bit of the energy of the show. Sweet Dream, One Brown Mouse. Then we go into a somewhat shortened version of Heavy Horses. That opening guitar riff, just one of the greatest things ever. Dun, 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 just fantastic Heavy Horses. After that, we get a Thick as a Brick. Always interesting, and I'm trying to think of it as the term of an artist. when an artist comes out and goes, I don't know how many of you remember this song from way back when, like 6 years ago. And do artists not realize that most people are probably at shows because of what they did 6 years ago and not what they did presently? And we all want to hear those old songs as much as we also want to hear some new stuff. So it's interesting the lengths that Anderson always goes to sort of like, this is an old one, if any one of you remember. Everybody remembers Thick as a Brick. The audience goes crazy. We pretty much get the same version that we get on Bursting Out. And for this era, you get the first part, the Really Don't Mind, into that second half of the acoustic thing, shortened transition into the Poet and the Painter. The jam in Poet and the Painter is epic. Flute, guitar going at it. The rhythm section is bringing it. Got to give a shout out to the bass playing on this album and the drumming. It is tight. It is mixed incredibly well. There are so many moments where the bass and the drummer are just like lifting these songs up to the next level. Absolutely fantastic performances. And who do we got on drums and bass? We have Tony Williams is on bass, guest musician. Okay, I did not know that. That's what it says here. And then on drums, we have Barrymore Barlow. So wow, Tony Williams is bringing it on bass. Sounds fantastic. So really good stuff. So we get the Poet and the Painter. The jam is fantastic. Then we go into From the Upper Class, and then we get the sort of jump to the end of Thick as a Brick 2 for the closing. Great Thick as a Brick. Great. After that, we get a No Lullaby. Nice to hear a No Lullaby. I do think it works better as an opener, especially because they have this sort of like instrumental prologue that they attach on to the beginning before they go into No Lullaby proper. They don't have that prologue here. They've dropped it. Still a fantastic version. This is indexed as one track, but it goes into a flute solo that includes God You Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, and then they just kind of jam that out for the rest of the song. It's a 9-minute track, but like just under half of that is the God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen flute jam. That would get indexed separately on the re-release. But that's awesome. Nice little break in the middle. I think it works pretty well. Then we get a Songs from the Wood. In this one, it looks like it's a full 4.5, 4:53 version of Songs from the Wood. It's not. It's essentially a kind of, I guess, a medley of 2 songs, tracks. You get P-Brock, like an instrumental version of P-Brock to open it up, kind of well jammed out. And then that goes eventually into Songs from the Wood, and we get a shortened version of that. So over the course of 5 minutes, you essentially get two Songs from the Wood songs. Nice little medley. I like when I think Jethro Tull does it well. Later on, there's another instance of this, which I'm not as big a fan, but I think they do a good job of saying, hey, we can't play all our songs. If we can shorten things up like Thick as a Brick, if we can do this where we play like an instrumental version of this into something like this that's shortened, let's do it. Give the fans more. I like that. Songs from the Wood is a good example of that. Then we get Quatrain, sort of an instrumental upbeat jig. That goes into Aqualung. Bars solo in Aqualung, always a treat. Very metal, just absolutely great. Very aggressive. Then we get a 15+ minute version of Locomotive Breath that is actually 3 songs. We get a pretty, I'm not going to say standard version of Locomotive Breath because the intro to this is ridiculous. I think Locomotive Breath has been on this is the 9th one I've done, maybe 8 of those has had a Locomotive Breath on it, 7 of them. 78 versions, by far the best. The intro before they get into like the verses, Barr is going off just incredibly hard, just shredding. Let's say he's shredding. So we get a Locomotive Breath. When that is finished, we get some like crazy fanfare. Then we go into Dam Buster's March, this sort of instrumental jam based, this instrumental version of like this 1950s tune. And then after that, we go into a Simple Man, which isn't indexed or it isn't part of the track listing on the album. It's a Martin Barr instrumental tune. There's a drum solo in the middle of it. It's really proggy, really heavy, but you get like almost 16 minutes of like Locomotive Breath into these really cool instrumental proggy jams where there's a flute solo, there's guitar solos, there's a drum solo. It's overwhelming, awesome prog epicness. Brilliant, brilliant. Great stuff. And then I think that's the end of the main set. And then you have 2 encores. You get a Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die. Love that riff. And then we get a My God into Cross-Eyed Mary. You get a My God about the first 3 minutes of that. I don't think Ian's playing acoustic. It's like piano for the opening part. We get the nice drop. We got the drop all the way through the flute solo. When we enter that flute solo territory, Ian starts playing some little, I think it's all around the mulberry bush. I think it's mulberry bush that he plays. And then that leads us into Cross-Eyed Mary. And then he starts to, we get that build up in a Cross-Eyed Mary. And then we're off in a Cross-Eyed Mary. So it's like a 7-minute track. Roughly half of it is My God. And then the rest of it is Cross-Eyed Mary. Maybe a little more than half is Cross-Eyed Mary. Nice, tight, what is it? It's like just short of 80 minutes. I believe it's the complete show. When you look at the DVD, I think all of the songs on the DVD are on here. I think they drop like a band intro, but I don't think the band intro is on listening on the CD. I don't remember. But yeah, I think it's pretty much the complete show. Yeah, it's not that much different from Bursting Out. It's what, 4 or 5 months later, but can't really complain that it's not much different because Bursting Out is so far not letting go of its #1 spot. So yeah, really enjoyed this. And a little bit different. It's interesting how just moving No Lullaby from the opening track to like the 5th track really changes sort of the tone and the flow of the show. I think it works better on Bursting Out. But here I'm not complaining. It's still a really good listen. So I like this. Apparently there's a DVD out there. I've not seen the DVD. I'm going to see if that's up on YouTube and maybe watch that later. Though WNBA playoffs start today. Really interested. I hope Caitlin Clark makes it to the second round. Let's shut those haters up anymore. Sorry to get political, but yeah, I really, really enjoyed this, and I enjoyed the remastered version that's on the new Bursting Out release. Where would I rank this among all the other Jethro Tull live albums? I have it at number 3. That Bursting Out, still untouchable. Live at the Isle of Wight, their bluesy rock version, that's just fantastic, fantastic release. And even though the repetition on here is, even though the track list is almost identical to Bursting Out, it's better than the Hammersmith 84. Hammersmith 84 is more like, oh, under wrap stuff live, how intriguing. And the rest of the stuff, it's at the bottom because there's not as much heavy prog and it's more folky light prog. Jigs, instrumentals, Anderson dealing with the fact that he doesn't have a voice. Give me the heavy prog. Give me more live stuff from the 70s. Really interested in that. But yeah, it's a number 3, but a good, solid number 3. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this album, Jethro Tull, things I messed up on, all that kind of stuff. You know how comments work, people. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and yeah, go listen to this. Or if you like this and like Bursting Out, I like that and you don't have either one, that new double box set goodie release, whatever it was. Is it the 45th anniversary? I don't think that's how they advertised it, though. No, I don't know when it came out. The shows are from 78, but it didn't come out in 78. 45th anniversary? I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? No, that's math is right. No, that math is right. But anyways, all right, that's all I got. I'm rambling. Thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.